Oh, hello, everybody, and welcome to Higher Education and Esports Planning for Success. My name is Logan Hermes, and I am excited to have all of you join today. I know it's just me. Normally, you will have a couple of folks talking about esports, collaborating on the experience of high school, or talking about program builds, or more importantly, just the tech aspects. And today, I really want to focus and talk to you all about the other layer to building a program, interacting with student orgs, getting on a campus, whether it be a 2-year, 4-year, or beyond, technical colleges as well. The biggest reason that I was inspired to do this was because not a lot is out there that talks about the builds today. And what is out there forgets to talk about, all right, you have a school next to you, or you have a backyard of colleges in a college town or a market that you're trying to reach, but you don't know how to build that credit within that university system. And through gaming and esports, it's actually entirely possible. And I'm super ready, super willing to talk to you about those small things to do, especially at the higher education level, that you might not even need to do for the K-12 level to evangelize yourself, your business, and then the building of the arena can come shortly after that. I appreciate you tuning in to our lovely Gaming and Higher Ed, building community in and around esports and gaming. Now, I have a pretty big question for all of you. First of all, welcome for those that are coming in. My question to all of you, as our first polling question of the day, is when working with local or regional colleges and universities, where do you do business? Now, there are a few answers here. Bookstore, campus IT supplier, esports and gaming supplier, or I currently do not do business, or none of the above. The reason I want to push this polling question out is, A, it influences, obviously, what I'm going to talk about today, but also because I kind of want to gauge where you sit, right? I really want to talk to you, right? This will be recorded for future use, and I really want to understand where you sit. Today, we have our interaction coming through polling questions, as well as during this webinar, we'll have our folks on the back end randomly pick out 3 wonderful winners of a DoorDash gift card, $100 for anyone that is super ready to have an amazing lunch with their team. But the reason I push this polling question out and ask for your interaction is we're not really going to focus on if you are one of these. If you are a bookstore supplier, amazing. That's incredible. That's a great boon to have for a university system. If you're already a campus IT supplier and you already know what the campus needs on that end, but you're looking to get into that gaming realm, that's still amazing. You can utilize that, and we'll talk about that today. If you're specifically already an esports gaming supplier and you want to know how you can get more involved with your community, don't worry, we got you covered. But this is also aimed at those that don't do any business or are looking to kind of break into that community, but might not have that hold already. And if you are none of the above, well, I still think you're in the right place. But I'm going to push the results in about a minute. And I will tell you the importance of this question very shortly. Because I've just recently moved. I moved from Minnesota. Any Minnesota natives out here? Hello. And I've moved to Philly. And this came up on my move. And so as I push the results here, I can see a lot of you are a nice campus IT supplier, about 67% of you. And don't worry for the combined 16% for none of the above, or currently don't do any business. That is okay. I really wanted to make this presentation and overall this webinar on demand and currently live impactful and purposeful so that you can use it to the best of your ability, or at least understand the nuances between what you're doing today, whether it's in US, Canada, or beyond, and how you can really evangelize what your business can do in the future when it comes around gaming. But 5% for bookstore. Glad you're here. what we're going to do is we're going to move into our lovely program sponsors. Hello, hello. Thank you, Intel, Lenovo, Logitech, MSI, AOC, and NVIDIA, and Razer. You can find all of these vendors and their assets around esports, gaming, educational tools, product guides on dnh.com/esports, where you can also find our solutions finder, some PS templates on why esports and education, and why they go together, and why that market is valuable. And if you have any further questions, you can reach out for a free consultation where you can talk to me and a couple of our components BU reps and understand where you fit in that market, whether it be regional, whether it be right in your backyard, which is what we'll talk about today, or on a national basis. We are here and ready to help you out in this vertical, and I'm very excited once more, along with our vendor partners, to have you here with us today. A brief introduction for those that do not know, and that is okay. I am not a premier esports speaker, but I do have a lot of experience under my belt. Currently, I'm the esports program marketing manager for DNH Distributing. Hello, it's me. I'm also currently the head of operations for Minnesota Esports Club. We are a nonprofit that helps students that don't have high school programs or still want to compete, but don't have that backing of an educational institution to receive coaching, mentorship, understand broadcast, and how that relates to future career opportunities, as well as potentially show universities that there is talent still in Minnesota. And it might not just come through a structured esports program, because, as I'll show a little later, not every school has bought on to the fact that gaming isn't going away. And that's okay. We grow with the business that we are in. I've also was the chair of the Eligibility Enforcement Committee for NACE, the National Association of Collegiate Esports. If anyone has been following esports at all, for the National Convention of NACE, I was my first time I became added at, or someone called me out because of legislation that I had helped write that wasn't even up for debate. But back then, we were talking way before COVID. We were talking about what in-house competition looks like and how we can kind of solidify that across the board. Whether you agree with formalized institutions of competition or not, that is okay. No one is here to judge you. During that time, I was also the head esports coach for Concordia St. Paul University, CSP, Go Bears, and that was in St. Paul, Minnesota. Since a lot of this is about higher ed, I figured I'd put my master's in higher education administration, where I wrote my thesis on collegiate esports, on how to start a program. I would revise that today, but as you can see, I looked like this image you see here when I wrote it, a young, bright, un-COVID-less man. And today, we're going to introduce those similar concepts. And the biggest thing that I want to ask as we go into our topics of discussion is, what does your community, what does your backyard look like, right? Maybe not the backyard of your home or the backyard of your business, but the one where universities sit, right? I told you before, I had moved from Minnesota to Haverford, Pennsylvania, right outside of Philly, right on the main line. So if you hear a train, I do apologize. And the first thing I looked at, being a wannabe esports professional, was I looked at the institutions around me. I have currently 6 colleges, universities around me, and I wanted to know their esports programs, right? I recently come off of managing, building, and creating one in Minnesota, and I was like, oh, there's got to be some here, right? It was a big inspiration for this presentation because I looked. I mean, the 6 institutions that are around me, not including the Penn State system, they didn't have any major esports presence, right? And, you know, working at DNH, I thought to myself, well, this is a great opportunity, right? And you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that sounds like an amazing opportunity to start the conversation, to lead with gaming and education, and being able to build curriculum, finding the champions of their program. And if you've taken our certification provided by the Varsity Esports Foundation, the Esports Education Network, you'll know these things. It's an amazing opportunity to try and jump in. But because of my background, I knew there has to be a reason. And the biggest reason is gaming isn't new anymore to universities. I mean, 5 years ago, maybe, 4 years ago, a little less, but especially through the 2 years that we were on COVID hiatus, gaming has become not only more prevalent, but is always in the minds of decision makers. And so as you work through and try to have these conversations, as I had thought about with these 6 institutions that have no structured esports programming, I realized that, well, they do have gaming clubs, right? The audience is there. And what would someone that is trying to do business in higher education, especially around gaming, and start evangelizing these opportunities, what should they do? And that is what this webinar is for. And if you definitely have those questions or you're ready to engage in that topic of conversation, I strongly ask you to ask some questions here. Just like Jesse Wallace, my email address for DNH is lhermes@dnh.com. Hermes is my last name, but don't worry, I'll repeat that as well at the end. And just a reminder, this will all be recorded at the same link that you found it on. So if you have to dip out a little later, don't worry, we got you covered. You can join right where you had left off. But today, we're going to dive deeper into identifying the needs of the institutions around you, your student-led esports groups and events, what that participation looks like, advocating for your local champions, and really showing, not telling. And I have great examples of student-led groups that have done that and how you can really evangelize those groups themselves. Remember, you are a piece to the puzzle, and your business starts that, like DNH. We are a piece to the overall esports solution puzzle, but we are not the forefront. The students are the forefront, and their learning is usually paramount. So this is going to push my second polling question of today, because I like to keep things interactive. And before I go on, do you currently engage in community events with your surrounding educational institution or institutions? Some of you might see this as, well, yeah, I mean, maybe I donate to my institution, but I'm really looking at, do you host local tournaments? Do you understand that they have every student, knows what Smash Bros is, especially if you grew up in the time of N64 or even before that, and just doing those in-house LANs. I really want to know if you currently engage in community events, and it doesn't even have to be around gaming. It could be around the broadcast department or the computer science department, or you work with the robotics team, right? And obviously, if you are a forward-head thinker, you can understand how this might apply to gaming. But I do want to gauge the room. I do want to truly understand who we have here as more and more people keep chiming in. But in doing so, I'm going to give you one more moment, 2 more moments, and we are looking at what we've all decided here. Now, that's what I like to see, right? Now, first of all, if you don't think about this, that's amazing. This presentation's for you. You're still on track. But for those 33% that don't spearhead the opportunity, you are right where you need to be. And you'll see why in a second. And for those, obviously, that currently look for those opportunities, that's amazing. A strong relationship with the universities that you want to target is the best tool to utilize that further engagement with students, with evangelizing more of your business, and then creating the solution of integration with you in the school. If you already have that integration, or if you're already working towards building those relationships, engaging in the community events like food drives, or even specifically the non-tech university events, right? Being a good steward of your community is something that I know we'll all try and advocate for. This is not breaking new ground. But actually showing up is something that a lot don't do. And I've worked on college campuses for a while, and very rarely am I seeing, a reseller come in and really advocate for what they're trying to do in the community, or more importantly, really advocate for student success and how their business, can enable you in the future. So as I move to our lovely next slide, I do want to go over the only definitions that we'll do today. And I know, especially if you pay attention to a lot of esports content, you'll be like, Logan, I've already heard it. You spell esports with a capital E, don't capitalize the S. I'm not here to tell you that today. Because if I was, I would die on the spot. There is no great reason to talk about what you can already Google, but what I do want to differentiate is the difference between the terms esports and gaming. You might hear them, and you might hear, oh, these can be used interchangeably, but they really can't. I was going to bring up one of those sayings like, not all hornets are wasps, but all wasps are hornets. And if you know that, or you love entomology and you think I'm wrong, feel free to throw in a comment there. But all esports is gaming, but not all gaming is esports. When you open up your daily on a phone game or Candy Crush, or that's still gaming, right? When you were little and you played Pong, or you had a Commodore, or you were doing, the first Link and Zelda adventure, and you just left the controller idle, that's still gaming. Esports is a little more convoluted, and that's because while that buzzword gets thrown around a lot, I want to ensure that today I'm talking about gaming. Everything you do doesn't have to be esports when you're engaging in that market, because you're selling the same equipment for multiple uses. And esports in and of itself really only has a few uses. But if you only lead with esports, you could be pigeonholing yourself out of other opportunities to build your business on a campus, or even just out in the community for yourself. But esports is traditionally known as a spectator sport led, so that could be viewers on Twitch, that could be an auditorium, competition between teams of 1 versus 1 for a fighting game, 3 versus 3 for Rocket League, for example, 5 versus 5 for the League of Legends, and currently Overwatch for Overwatch 2. But those are spectator sports, right? And that's what makes the E in esports really impactful, is that it is a competition, right? And folks want to watch it because it's exciting. It usually has broadcasts or shoutcasters. And if you aren't making content in any program, whether you're an amateur team, you're a pro team, you're a university-led team, or you're one with some sort of backing trying to make it in there, if you are not making content, which is a vital part of esports, then you're really just gaming as a group. Like I said before, all esports is gaming. Not all gaming is esports. And you should never want to make it your goal to reach that coveted title, but understand that these words are tools to make it so that you can constantly advocate for that community gaming sphere, that casual gaming environment, or the competitive esports environment. Now, there are more nuances, but I do want to make sure that we talk about the difference between esports and gaming before I move on to our next slide. And this is kind of where I want to talk about the market. And I want to thank very much our friends over at the Esports Education Network, where you can take, and I please urge you if you haven't, to take our esports certification, partnered with the Varsity Esports Foundation, as we have discounts for you and your team to make sure you understand the high school market when it comes to esports and education, and more importantly, how to sell into that market, which is what that training covers. But if you want to take that screenshot of this slide, feel free to. We're able to consult with them and say, all right, well, how many high schools out there and how many colleges out there have programs? And so they did an estimated average. There is no one sole site where you can find this on. So these numbers may be skewed whenever you're watching this. Today is September 27th, 2022. And so as you look at this chart, you might have a lot of questions. You might go, well, in colleges, it looks like there's 90% of the market that has no official esports program. Well, that's kind of what I want to talk about as I move into these regional map as well, is because when you look at market data, you think now everyone has to have a structured program. And I want to get all of this out of the way before I talk about student-led initiatives, which is what I ask you to evangelize. You're already seeing that there's a lot of schools that might not have taken advantage of the opportunity, but 80% of students on campus, whether it be high school or whether it be college, it's even more for college, don't have an extracurricular activity. They might play video games, and as we know from Pew Research studies, we have about 53% of college-age students that are playing video games actively, and there's more that still play it passively or one-off. The interest is there, it's viable, and based on the market trends, it's growing. So it's great that there's 90% of the market for schools to have esports programs, but the definition and the structure of the program and what you think is sponsored by the school or has money actually behind it is different. And I want to get this all out of the way with definitions before I talk about the real meat potatoes. And that is identifying your need. Now, before I do that, let's take a good look. I currently live in the Northeast, but I had 6 institutions sit around me, and one of them is Villanova. That doesn't have an esports program. That's crazy, right? But we still have a lot that are growing, and you'll see a lot of content built around them because I had said before, if you're not building content around esports, you really don't have something you can advocate for, recruit for, build retention, especially in a college environment. And so I want to ask one more question before I head off into identifying the need that I really want you all to take home today. And that is, would you do a PC build in the future? Local students in your area? It's a pretty nuanced question. We might get 100% yes. Some of you out there might be like, no, I don't have a room big enough. Would I invite the students? Would I do it at the school? But it's a simple question because not only is this something to evangelize from a marketing and a social media perspective, but this right here is something that you go poll students, you do an informal assessment at a booth. I'm pretty sure all of them kind of want to do it. They want to see how it's done. Maybe they're interested in building PCs themselves. But this is where we get a lot of the traction when it comes to developing content. I mean, D&H did a PC build less than a month ago, and it got a lot of eyes on it. Now, for your business and engaging the potential buyers or those that are going to go into business that might buy technology, would you do a PC build with local students in your area? And if you have, you can feel free to put yes. But I would love, never mind. Here's the poll. That's my bad. Click yes or no. Sometimes you get a little colorblind. But either way, evangelizing this opportunity on doing PC builds is something that we'll talk about when working through identifying need. As the identifying needs of student groups is different than official programs. And they love to do activities like this one. It's 100%. I knew it would be 100%. I'm going to have folks being like, why'd you pull a polling question? That was 100%. Here's why. In higher education, there are traditional groups and there's student groups. And what I'm asking for today is to evangelize your community by going after those student groups. This slide has a lot of great information, and it doesn't need to be an either or, but in student-led groups, you usually have a gaming club, and that's what's here. When I moved to Philly, they're all gaming clubs, and they're specific title gaming clubs. Maybe they're a League of Legends club. Maybe they're an Overwatch club. Maybe it's a chess club, still gaming, but in this world, we can reasonably ascertain that folks that like chess might play online chess, might play other online games. And you can start seeing that through gaming, one tangent can easily lead to another, and those most likely have technological needs. When you identify the need and do informal assessments and the activities laid out on the slide, you understand that it is far easier and far less manpower and work to go after these student groups and send emails and say, hey, I noticed we have a League of Legends club. I found you on your university's website. Would you mind doing this event with us? We're collecting 3 or 4 of students from around the area with these colleges, and we want to do this event. We think your club would be great at it. That is where you can start showcasing to others in your circle that you are pursuing this need without making it a for sure partnership with the university. But you can do it with these community-led student clubs, and they are ready for it. As an advisor, I used to be an advisor of multiple student clubs at University of Wisconsin River Falls, as well as Concordia University St. Paul. And then I used to be, I used to run a lot of things at North Dakota State University. If you're a Carson Wentz fan, I'm sorry, but he came from NDSU. You might not get a copy of these slides, Jesse, but this presentation will be up to review on DHTV. Where if you have an account with D&H, you can go check it out. And if we persuade, we can put it on our YouTube. But This will be available on demand. But as we go into traditional groups, these are your athletics. These are your student affairs. This is your student life and residence life, etc. These are departments that have structure. And that's usually what you want to go after from a traditional standpoint, right? I want to engage the community, so I want to start at the top. I want to make someone with a decision maker and a budget so we can build a small arena, so we can have a Smash tournament, right? Or so we can evangelize, bookstores, because I sell into bookstores, to create an experience of gaming. And then I get to say with my business that I'm in gaming. But that doesn't really give you longevity. You might do it once a year, but are you every day or maybe every semester or once every quarter advocating with these student-led groups, which could have, from a small institution, about maybe 10. It usually takes about 5 people to create a student group and to maintain that throughout the years, or they'll remove it from their website. Or to 100 students that might be on their own email list. And while you might not be able to get on that email list, engaging with that group is more than likely able to bring that group back to your sites, or have them tell their parents about you, or more importantly, and this is the major point we'll get to, is by going through our student-led groups, we can eventually cement ourselves with proposals and grants, all of the other resources that can be found at dnh.com/esports, or in any of our DHTV videos around esports and gaming, where you can build out those proposals, find the champion of your program, because you started from the beginning, or you started where there was already need and a want for this to happen. I've seen way too often, and you can ask a lot of collegiate coaches out there, where a university will want an esports team, but not have polled their students, other than saying, well, we have a student group. They play League of Legends, but I don't know a lot about them. You can get in the front door, and you can booth, for example. Go to their university website, whether it's through Residence Life or Student Affairs, and you can schedule a booth. Now, most of them will ask you not to solicit. So, for example, if you schedule a booth and you have 16 PCs and you're selling them on the spot, that might not be great. But if you are leading with education and curriculum and showing why gaming is important and why they should get into it, especially if they're not, that leads you down the path of starting those engaging conversations so that you can catch the ear of the students, which make eventual and year-long decisions for the university. And we don't see enough of that. You could ask, Joey over at Shenandoah. I mean, you can ask Doc Haskell over at Boise State. You can ask name drop person from region in America. And they'll tell you that the only emails they get are emails from, tech resellers that are trying to just build their arena for them, right? You want to be the next person to offer that supplier, get in touch with those students. Those students will get to know your PC or get to know those builds and understand who you are in the community. That can help evangelize your sale. Now, with these student-led groups, I want to get to the nitty-gritty, right? They are active, or at least they try to be, and they are community building within themselves. They rely on external partners such as yourself, just like a traditional group would rely on your sponsorship for something like a football game or to be on a sign. These student groups just want to have fun, and they want to bring more students into their group, and so they're going to want to do active programming with your participation, whether it's through a PC build event or a pizza party with a small tournament. That gets you in the door. And as you're in the door, you can understand and do a formal assessment or informal assessment through boothing and find out, actually, there are 200 students at this university that would really like to see an esports program. But you know that your campus, or the one you're targeting, hasn't responded to your emails about starting that initiative. Get in with the students, understand that this isn't a major commitment. You don't have to be there every week, but twice a semester at a booth, I think that's doable. And we don't see enough of that. With your traditional groups, they are structured, right? They're about 10 to 50 paid members. You need a champion for your cause, which is usually an athletic director or an IT professional. And they already have busy jobs and lives, right? Students, while busy, can be a better advocate for you because they also want to network. They also want to grow, especially if they're in your functional area, such as IT, coding, development, sales, or even broadcasting and team management. That's where you're going to find that success because you're bringing the education and gaming to one space. You're using live and virtual events to attack both of these groups at the same time by going direct to the students, and you're enhancing their offering once you realize that you're providing, PC building courses, right, as an internship, you bring on one student and you're like, I know it's not paid, but guess what? You're going to know exactly how to do this build, and it complements your major like this. We're only going to offer 2 credits for it. That's when you can bring in more students. That's when you can look for that advocation. And then obviously everything in, incentive for growth of your business, as well as the schools. And if it's a small school that understands they have a large video gaming population, you can start with a casual gaming community and you can just run promotions. Gaming and esports has started truly, not straight from LANs, not, fully in the arcade, but the esports competitiveness can easily be done in a casual gaming environment because you have the personnel to do it. And when you do, year over year, you can say, actually, we're getting a consistent 50 to 100 students coming to our once a semester events. This is the ammunition we need to start building proposals, cold calling the decision makers at the institution, and allowing for those presentations to be had saying, we understand the financial worth of this. It is going to grow along with your institution. It's not just going to stay here once or be used as a sole retention tool. Now I've talked a lot. And I am going to answer one question, because there's only one question here, but if you have questions, feel free to ask them now. From Nelly Patel, can you help us build a campus store? Well, if you have an account manager, you can definitely ask. But at certain universities, you might not be able to establish that campus store or campus sponsored store unless you kind of divulge what that relationship is already that you have with the campus. There are in esports programs or student-led programs, which we'll talk about a little later, the ability to run kind of those 2-week promotional stores. Normally they're for clothing, normally they're for gear or university sponsored swag. But at the moment, a bookstore is normally what the campus is going to have you go through, especially if you're selling electronics. And to get into this market, I really want you to target these students, not in a malicious way, but in a way to show them that there is value in understanding the operations business and the tech business and knowing where their product is coming from and how it's evangelized within their community. Because I guarantee you a lot of students on campus have no idea. There are folks there that are willing to help them out with their needs, and more importantly, help other businesses out that they are planning to work for. This is a budding and learning group. And the more you learn about your general college student community, the more you can get them to help you out, and at the same time, build a potential esports program or evangelize that sale. And this can work at a 4-year, a 2-year, any trade schools. Folks are playing video games all the time. And so really grabbing onto that and running with it can help your marketing, your social, or even your general sales by showing you are here and you already have a stake in the community. Now, as I move past looking for questions, seeing that there is none, I really want to talk about local champions. Now, Bubba Gator talks about these champions all the time. Bubba's a great guy. He used to do a lot of our videos for him. You can still find him on DHTV. But you can find more information about how to find your champion by taking our 2022 esports certification provided by the Varsity Esports Foundation and Esports Education Network. And if you're a DNH partner, you can receive a discount for that certification. Just reach out to dnh.com/esports and esports@dnh.com if you're looking to email someone directly. Our team will get back to you. That being said, what is the local champion? A champion of your program or your initiative, especially if you haven't built a program yet and you want to take the slow and steady pace. You're never going to do all of what I'm talking about here in a semester. You might do some of it in one semester, some in another, right? Increasing your stake in the community, understanding that you're doing this probably for multiple institutions across the breadth of your business. But you are eventually going to come to a point where you're like, you know what? This student that keeps responding to my emails, that keeps coming back, or the leader of the club, I think at this point I have all the data I need to advocate to the decision makers of the institution to create a small program. Every program should start small unless otherwise noted, where it has 3 to 6 PCs or 3 to 7 PCs, depending on your setup. And you really want a student or an advisor or both in tandem to be a champion of that local area, of someone that's passionate about gaming. Usually if it's a student, you're going to want to find a sophomore. If you find a senior, they might fizzle out. You might not be able to have that student representation anymore. A sophomore or freshman that's very excited about this, and they are there. They are just waiting for someone to give them permission, right? And you have a key. You are a piece to that puzzle when it comes to institutional planning and programming. And that key is technology, but it's also knowledge that, through the resources that we provide or those that you provide on your own right? Especially on website, web assets, PDFs, you can show that this is extremely reasonable for almost every institution in the United States to have, and Canada. But you got to find students who want more for themselves in their community. They could be interacting with your content, or coming to your boothing, or coming to each event, but you still have to engage them. You still have to say, hey, I noticed you're doing this. Do you want to work with us, business here, to develop a plan for your institution, right? And you're actively working with them. You're not having them do all the work and building the proposal. You're saying, you are the advocate. You go here every day, right? I might come once every 2 times a semester, but you're here. Tell us what it's about. Get in touch with the clubs. I'd love to evangelize a proposal. Another thing, while you're boothing or you have a presence at the institution, whether it be an outdoor event or any event you currently do, just do surveys. Surveys are one of the least, touched things when it comes to understanding what your campus community is all about. And it might seem, and I mean it, oh boy, it might seem like a basic thing. Oh, why aren't they doing surveys? When I started the first program in Minnesota, the university had not done any surveys. They had not assessed their campus population. They had not really understood what gaming was like or what titles to offer. And that right there is your informal assessment. You got to start asking people. And you are one of the perfect, especially your business, is the perfect at asking, do you game? And if you game, what do you do? Right? Here's, a $25 gift card. Here's the DoorDash gift card, by the way. And once you understand the student and staff life and lifestyles, then you can start pushing more events their way. Maybe it's just a student life staff Rocket League tournament where you get the staff members all together because you want them excited, right? And you can have an offering, and you don't have to be majorly partnered with the institution to do it. You can just offer that to the department because you know that if you set it up easy and you can create a mobile esports solution, maybe the student life avenue instead of athletics or residence life or student affairs might be the way to go to evangelize an esports program at your institution. Right? You can do the same with students as you've done before, whether it be console gaming, mobile gaming, but then you have to enable it, right? You have to have a comprehensive program built out. You can't just do this on a whim, right? Plan out the semester, understand what you're going to do, and then just see where the feedback takes you. Do some social and internal promotion. Some folks are very good at that. Others just need to have a little umph so they understand who you are. And then have active web assets. We have some here at tvh.com/esports that talk about what esports is, right? And understand the difference between gaming in general. Because at schools, they might just say no to gaming, but they've heard the buzzword esports. So it's good to have both terminologies on your website. And truly understanding that if you're going to stick with one, you can generally stick with gaming, but you're going to lead with a buzzword or you're going to lead with an emotion that elicits a response that hopefully benefits you and the community you're trying to build within your local college and university sphere, as well as helping with established events. I know most of you are doing it. And lastly, I talked about this before, but we're going to lead with students where they're at, right? We're going to talk about offering small and large events and use proposals and grants to evangelize what we need, right, to push our tech business ahead. That is something that D&H wants you to do. That's why we offer the ability to consult with us for free, because at some level, if you've done all of these steps leading up to this full partnership, right, that is when a distributor like us can come in and say, oh, this is amazing. we want to get on board because of the work that you're doing, because of the work we've been able to help you with, or what you've done by yourself because you saw this opportunity, and we want to make it grow. You don't have to establish a program at every university and college in your area, but if you're not talking to them, then it doesn't matter if you're cold calling, once a semester. It just matters that you're already there, and you can take that interest, run an event, and then push a proposal with the meat and the experience to say, I know we can do this. And if eventually they still don't bite, which is possible, you now have a great group of consumers that already know your product, whether you're a system integrator or you're someone that they can advocate for businesses to go to. Students are a resource that, as long as you don't abuse it, they'll trust you through and through and just become reliable potential networking partners, as well as advocates for your mission. Now, I do want to bring up my last polling question of the day, which is, do you engage with platforms such as YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live? On my last one, I know we had a lot of folks that engaged with kind of these virtual streaming platforms. And it's okay if you don't. But what I was talking about before, creating your content, putting it out, students want to know about these, right? And you don't have to have a Twitch. Your business doesn't have to have a Facebook Live. It doesn't have to have a YouTube Live if it doesn't move within your strategy. But you as a salesperson or a business leader, you still might want to pay attention to tournaments that are going on, understanding seasonal schedules for games that you want to advocate for because you sell the technology that runs those games. When you engage in these platforms, you are not here just to be a spectator. You are here to understand what makes students and adults, a lot of viewers of YouTube Live and Twitch, are 30-plus-year-olds. And that is probably how it's going to stay for a while. Your mission in kind of evangelizing these efforts, if you are engaging in a collegiate community, is your whole mission, your whole reason of doing this. It's just to show them that it is possible to have career paths outside of what you're already evangelizing, right? Is saying, hey, student blank, I know you want to be a champion of this program, but did you also know that esports programming comes with broadcast tasks? That esports programming comes with understanding what team management looks like, that it comes with shoutcasting, and it comes with production. And if they don't know that, that's amazing. But if they do know that, then you can go deeper. And then you can say, oh, did you know about the business aspects of it? I saw this great, YouTube video on this. I'd love to share it with you. Or we have these assets on our site. Let's talk with your advisor, right? You get to kind of have these conversations, and they can be as casual as you want because you're not employing a student. You're not asking them to do more than they already want to. You're taking that excitement they have, and you're finding it at booth events, or you're finding it at an event you already do. You're saying, all right, go run with it, right? The tools of streaming and the tools of the actual game themselves and what they're running, that's what they're already using. That's what they're already familiar with. And you don't have to be a rocket scientist or a young salesman or someone that's savvy. You just have to meet them where they're at. And then, I don't care if they're getting a degree in philosophy. I don't care if they're in computer science and they want to go into gaming themselves. That's amazing. You found someone that is already passionate about the topic. Gaming in and of itself is traditionally a leisure activity. And for them to build a leisure activity, just think about it with anything else. If you liked knitting, and then one day, this is a crazy example, but it works. And one day someone told you, hey, did you know that there's a knitting competition out there? They stream it. And more importantly, oh, you already know they stream knitting? Did you know that there's team managers for knitting, right? And there's an entire sales force out there that sells to those managers and introducing them to a new economy of knitting. And all you did before that was you loaded up a YouTube video unrelated to knitting, and you just knitted and watched it. And now you have kind of another concept to think about that you can go advocate for, and there's someone in your community, you know where they are, or maybe you know where to find them. that already has those tools ready for you if you want to dive deeper. You are setting the framework for your community. And about 50% of you already are already on the train to submit that framework to these group of students. Lastly, and the reason I ask that is because these are great examples of student-led programming. These programs, UT at Dallas, UCI, Shenandoah, I put CSB Esports here because they've done a lot since I've left. They were all student-led prior to getting an official program, to an amazing arena, to really figuring out that, oh my goodness, we can use this as a recruiting and retention tool. We can really work with the university's mission, and all we have to do is find a tech provider. Well, if you're there at the beginning, it's a lot easier for them to put that puzzle piece in. But I do want to call them out, and I do want you to copy these resources down if possible and look at the pages. Now, you can email me, and I will give you the PowerPoint slide. That's lhermes@dnh.com or esports@dnh.com. And we can schedule a consultation and talk our way through it, understand your needs and how to really work with it. But calling out UT at Dallas, they have an amazing social media program and student-run community gaming program. That is something, I think that is my top. That is my number one. You see content around collegiate esports and student-run. That student-led initiative, those students get sponsors themselves. Those students establish community partners themselves. Those students know that there are professional esports teams in the area, and they want to work with them. And because they want to work with them and they want to work in gaming, or at least be a part of it, but know that I'm going to be an English teacher, that is where you're going to get the drive. That is where you're going to get that passion. Another is, obviously, one that's talked about a lot is UCI, California. That is just generally, they have press releases about students graduating because they were like such strong champions of that club. And they weren't even competitive players, or they were, depending on who you ask. But there are so many students that do so much more than play competitively. And when you're not utilizing them to evangelize the partnership within you and that university, or you and that department where you can grab interns from and establish nice hiring practices, you're really missing out. And you're really not putting your staple and your stamp on where you are located, regardless if you do nationwide business, region-wide, statewide, or just local. Two more, obviously, Shenandoah. Shenandoah is on the East Coast, and they make amazing content, but unless you're involved in esports, you might not see it a lot. You might see ads on any of your social media about them, which is great. They're creating content, but they actually have a bachelor of communication in esports, right? This is coming. And 2 years ago, I knew there was degree programs being made, but this is a lot of where you can take your community building tools and push them at the 6 universities that are near you and say, hey, you might not be ready to start a program today, right? But when you are, I'm here. And I'm already running these events with your institution. Lastly, big call out, and this is a fringe case, doesn't happen a lot, but at CSB Esports, where I used to coach, I was under athletics, right? The decision makers at the athletics department said, hey, we want an esports program. We think it's going to build attention. We want you to go and recruit. And I said, okay, I'd love to do that. When I left, it was the middle of COVID, they moved esports under student affairs, student life. Residence life is all up for what it is. But they were able to offer more titles. They were able to hit more students that loved gaming, right? They were able to consolidate their gaming clubs and their esports into one, all because they found that right niche, right? And they found a very passionate coach and coaching staff to be able to do that, where it wasn't pigeonholed by the structured traditional style, right? And they're doing great. I love watching them compete. But that is something that you need to keep in mind when you're targeting a university or you're looking to sell technology and try to base the gaming is, if I'm going to use the word gaming, and I kind of want to leave you with all of this before we end today. If I'm going to use the word gaming in a collegiate atmosphere, I don't have to lead with esports, but that is another tool in my toolkit. I'm going to pull out esports when it's needed. Oh, you want to do competitions? On our website, we know when the most popular competitions are. Do you think running an event around those competitions would be useful for you and your student group? Amazing. Let's build a plan of it, right? Working with those students, because they are adults, right? They are going to make decisions, but they also want to learn. And that is mostly one of the many reasons why folks want to go to college. And that is what you can take advantage of. I ask that you do this so we see more and more programs grow, more and more programs established. Obviously, this brings in more and more sales recurring year over year. But the one thing, and the one reason that I want you to take home, is if you do it this way, you start at the bottom, or maybe there's already a program that you know of, and it's maybe offered by another tech supplier, and you're still going to do it because maybe that tech supplier goes out of business and you're right there, right? Maybe they don't have a program because the university is going through a budgetary crisis, but you gave them, $150 to go booth twice a semester, and now they see you as a reliable resource, right? Especially because you're normally paying student affairs or residence life to booth, and they're the ones that are going to have the most active student programming around gaming. You get to build that credit. You get to build that influence. And when you do it year over year, you get to create generational esports alum that might not have had a program, but are ready to ask the university to advocate for it and use the tools that you've already provided. This is why I hope that you have stayed. This is why I hope that we have more and more conversations around this topic within you and your coworkers, and hopefully the university surrounding you. And if you're struggling to have these conversations, if you're struggling to understand really what this all means, maybe you actually don't know what esports is and you joined because you want a DoorDash gift card, that's valid. I'm going to say that. Then I urge you to go to dnh.com/esports, schedule a free consultation with their esports team. Feel free to shoot us an email and talk about how to have those opening conversations, and more importantly, how to build that institutional credit within the students that lie there, so that one day you will find that champion, that you will build that program that can recoup year over year with more equipment costs, more equipment sales, and hopefully success that you can also celebrate when a team wins something or fully goes that competitive route. And that is all I have for you today. We're nearing on the hour mark, so I appreciate everyone that has stayed here. I'm going to open the floor for any more questions, but for those that want to leave, I urge that you check out our sites at dnh.com/esports, dnh.com/components, as well as our DHTV site for any other esports and gaming resources. My name is Logan Hermes, and I appreciate your time with me today. I'm going to leave open for any questions for the next 2 minutes, but if you don't have any, I hope you have a great day, and let me know if you need anything else. Thank you very much. My name is Logan Hermes. Seeing no questions, I'm going to end the webcast. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.